Uh, 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 and then Parlo says, wait, I have another idea. And then Starlight Glimmer says, what's that, Parlo? And the just like that when Starlight Glimmer says, what's that, Parlo? Where Parlo says, I know an idea, Starlight. Where Starlight Glimmer says, what's that? Where Parlo says, what if Wildflower doesn't see me if I'm the abominable snowman? And then Starlight Glimmer says, and then Parlo says, what? What's so funny? Where Starlight Glimmer says, I don't know. It's funny because you're the abominable snowman. And the just like that when Starlight Glimmer says, I don't know, it's funny because you're the abominable snowman. Where Parlo says, I am? And then Twilight says, yes, you're dressed up like the abominable snowman. Where Parlo says, oh, I am. And then the Rainbows laugh like Parlo, you're so funny. Where Parlo says, well, it is kind of funny, but let's get this work. Where Wildflower says, now what do you want? Where Parlo says, I'm the abominable snowman. Where Starlight Glimmer says, Parlo? Where Parlo says, yes, Starlight. Where Starlight Glimmer says, I can still see your tail. And the
I gotcha.
just like that when Starlight Glimmer says, Parlo, I can still see your tail. Where Parlo says, really? Where Starlight Glimmer says, and we can see your ears. Where Parlo says, really? Where Starlight Glimmer says, yeah, and I think your face is purple. Where Parlo says, oh yeah, my ears are purple, my tail's purple, and my face is purple. Where Wildflower says, no, you're not the abominable snowman. Where Parlo says, well, it's worth a try. Where Wildflower says, you're still that purple cat. Where Parlo says, right, I'm purple. Where Wildflower says, luckily I had the abominable snowman catapult. Where Parlo says, wow, oof, oof. Where Parlo says, well, nice try for myself. Where Parlo says, well, I tried. Where Parlo says, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to get Shigwa back. I'm all out of ideas. Where Starlight Glimmer says, don't worry, Parlo, you'll think of a way. But it's funny you were dressed up as the abominable snowman. Where Parlo says, really? Did Parlo says, you're right, Starlight. It is kind of funny. Okay. It is kind of funny. Where Parlo says, wait, what's that? Where Parlo says, you guys, look, there's an open window. Maybe Wildflower can't see me. Where Parlo says, I'm going in for it. Where Starlight says, be careful, Parlo. Where Parlo says, don't worry, I won't. Where Parlo says, okay, I made it inside the tower, and where Parlo says, uh-oh, I think I'm caught. Where Parlo says, well, it's time for me to run from the butler. Where Parlo says, ah! Where Starlight says, Parlo, what's happening? Where Parlo says, I'm getting chased by Wildflower's butler, and now I have been caught, and I saw a sign that says, no cats allowed. It only allows humans, not cats. Where Parlo says, and I'm a cat. Where Parlo says, and I had to be shown as a human, not a cat. Where Parlo says, this is not supposed to happen. Where Parlo says, I think I lost him. Where Parlo says, oh please, give me a break. Where Parlo says, zip it. Where Parlo says, okay, I went inside the tower. Now what? Where Starlight Glimmer says, open the cage and let Shigwa free. And after you're done that, get out of there, okay? Where Pearl says, great. Where Pearl says, okay, I opened the cage, and now I have to get out of here because I think the butler's still looking for me. Where Pearl says, I gotta get out of here. Where Pearl says, That was close. Where Parlo says, well, it was a nice day. Where Parlo says, hope that butler's not looking for me. Or when Parlo says, is that Wallflower's butler? Where Parlo says, and he knows me as a purple cat? Where Parlo says, how can I be the problem? I'm the cat, not a human. Where Parlo says, believable. Where Parlo says, my character? Where Parlo says, but I'm a cat.